Chapter 1. It was the 6th Lantern Festival I'd spent at my wife's family home, and this year she actually brought her childhood male friend home for the reunion dinner. My mother-in-law, Eleanor Ashworth, glanced at the table full of food I'd painstakingly prepared, her face etched with disdain. "This outsider son-in-law is just embarrassing. It's the same dishes every year. We're sick of them." My 5-year-old daughter, Melody, clinging to the neck of the childhood friend Ethan Vance, pouted in agreement. Yeah, I want Uncle Ethan to be my new daddy." Seeing the same unconcealed disdain and contempt mirrored in my wife Victoria's eyes, the last fragile shred of love I held in my heart was utterly extinguished. I let out a cold scoff and, without hesitation, flipped the table over. The entire feast crashed to the floor, scattering in a complete mess. "Sick of it? Then don't eat. From now on you won't get the chance, even if you want to. Sincere Clark. What the hell are you doing throwing a fit on a holiday? If you're going to cause a scene, get out and do it at your own damn home." I abruptly looked up at her. The familiar voice, the familiar reprimand, stunned me for a fleeting moment. My own home? Did I even have a home here anymore? Years ago, determined to marry Victoria Ashworth, I had ignored my own family's persuasive warnings, traveled far from home alone, and married into the Ashworth family as a live-in son-in-law. All these years I'd slaved away for her family, the Ashworths, enduring endless cold shoulders and disdain, all because I truly, sincerely loved her, Victoria. And now, right in front of another man, she was pointing her finger at me, telling me to get out, to go home. Looking at the woman I had loved deeply for 6 years, who suddenly felt like a complete stranger, the heart-wrenching, tearing pain began to cool along with the growing iciness in my gaze, until it finally subsided into stillness. "Are you deaf? Hurry up and apologize to Mom and Ethan. Then clean this mess up and make another meal. Now." Seeing my continued silence, my mother-in-law, Eleanor, finally snapped out of her shock. Cursing under her breath, she shoved me hard. "Get going, it's rare enough for Ethan to join us for a holiday meal. If you cause any more trouble, you can just get the hell out of my house for good." Such curses. Over the past 6 years I had heard them far, far too many times. In stark contrast to their simmering anger and stunned disbelief, I felt unnervingly calm. If this had been the past, I might have swallowed my pride, choked down the humiliation for the sake of my wife and child. But the me standing here now? All I wanted was to escape them as quickly as possible, to break free from this home that had suffocated me for 6 long years. "Victoria, let's get a divorce. I don't want anything. This house. I couldn't stand being in it for another second." Victoria froze for a second, then arched an eyebrow. "Don't want anything? What about Melody? You don't want her either?" Her arrogant, untamed expression was exactly the same as always, yet somehow she seemed utterly unfamiliar, a stranger. My gaze drifted past her, landing calmly, dispassionately, on my daughter nestled in Ethan Vance's arms. My tone was flat, devoid of any ripple of emotion. "No, I don't want her." Chapter 2. I admit the old me loved this daughter very, very much. After all, she was my own flesh and blood. After Melody was a month old, Victoria threw herself entirely back into her work. You could say that I, the full-time dad, raised her myself, changing every diaper, handling every mess. I considered myself a good father. I had poured all my love into her. But my daughter Melody never liked me. For 6 whole years, the days Victoria spent with her could be counted on one hand, yet Melody adored Victoria. Later, after Ethan Vance returned to the country, I heard Melody mention him to Victoria more than once. "Uncle Ethan is handsome, and he's nicer than Daddy. He buys me lots of ice cream. No wonder Mommy likes him too. I want Uncle Ethan to be my daddy." My daughter has a naturally sensitive stomach and can't handle cold or raw foods, which is why I never gave her ice cream or cold drinks. I never imagined that this would become her reason for wanting a new father. The laugh that failed to bubble up in my throat transformed into a wave of desolate coldness within me, chilling me to the bone. I remembered the New Year's wish Melody had secretly written in her diary on New Year's Eve, in her childish, cute handwriting. "In the new year, I hope Uncle Ethan becomes my new daddy. Now, it seemed, it was time to grant her wish. My sudden, unexpected decisiveness left the others stunned for a few seconds. Victoria was the first to recover. Wiping the surprise from her face, her tone turned harsh. "Sincere Clark, you really want this divorce. Don't you find then you leave with nothing, and you leave behind all your shares in the company. One more thing, you are never allowed to see Melody again." Every word was a threat. Previously, words like these would have inflicted heart-wrenching pain. Because I loved, I cherished them and found it hard to let go. Now they were just unimportant details, things I could take or leave. And so, under her challenging, provocative gaze, I nodded calmly. "Fine. Once the divorce papers are drawn up, I'll bring them for you to sign." Victoria froze again, her eyes narrowing, darkening slowly. "Let's go. We'll eat out for our holiday dinner." Finally, the three of them stormed out, slamming the door behind them. The entire house instantly fell silent, leaving only me standing amidst the wreckage on the floor. But my emotions remained terrifyingly stable. I walked to the kitchen, made myself a simple bowl of noodles, and after eating, went to my room to pack my bags. Then, accompanied by the brilliant fireworks lighting up the night sky, I left the place I had lived in for 6 years. Chapter 3. My hometown was over 1,200 miles away. Even driving now would take nearly 2 days. Besides, especially during the holidays, I didn't want to suddenly show up and worry my parents. The rental apartment I kept was nearby. I'd rented it a few years back to have a quiet place to focus on work. Victoria didn't know about it. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number of a long-term client. "Miss Quinn, Happy Lantern Festival. That system vulnerability in your company, I can have it fixed within the next couple of days." A light laugh came from the other end of the line. "With you on the case, I'm not worried. Same as usual, I'll transfer the payment soon." I thanked her and continued, "No rush on the payment. About your offer last time to invest in your new studio, I accept." The woman on the phone paused for a few seconds, then laughed aloud. "I finally got you. When should we sign the contract?" "Give me a little more time." "How about next month?" "A month. That should be enough time to extricate myself completely from the Ashworth family and finalize the divorce." "Okay, I'll wait for your word." After hanging up, I threw myself entirely into work. The earlier gloom and negativity had already been completely swept away. When we first married, I had sacrificed my own ambitions for Victoria's career, helping her resurrect the Ashworth family's company from the brink of bankruptcy. As a supposed reward, she gave me 10% of the company's shares, but then slowly, deliberately, sidelined me, pushing me out of operations and making me stay home as a full-time dad. What she didn't know was that in my spare time, I had been secretly taking on freelance computer IT projects and system repairs. I'd already built a quiet reputation for myself within the industry. Even without the Ashworth family, I could rely on my own skills to carve out a place for myself in the competitive world. Ashworth Corp, on the other hand, having let in a wolf like Ethan Vance, it was likely heading for serious trouble very soon. The next morning, I woke up to over a dozen missed calls on my phone, all from Victoria. I hesitated for a moment, then called back. As soon as the call connected, her familiar accusatory voice barraged me. "Sincere Clark, where were you all night? There's still trash all over the floor. Don't you know how to clean up? Just how long are you going to keep this childish tantrum up?" Chapter 4. Perhaps her memory was conveniently faulty. Maybe she'd forgotten I'd asked for a divorce. After letting her finish her tirade, I reminded her, "We're getting divorced. Please don't call me about things like this anymore." That single sentence instantly ignited Victoria's fury. Her voice dropped, becoming low and dangerous. "Divorce? Don't even think about it." Before I could respond, she hung up. Given the Ashworths' financial means, they could easily have afforded 3 or 4 housekeepers. But Eleanor, my former mother-in-law, had always been notoriously stingy, operating under the firm belief that all household chores should naturally fall to me. Thus, all the housework landed squarely on my shoulders. They complacently enjoyed my services and care, treating me like a servant, ordering me around for 6 long years, yet I never managed to warm their cold, stony hearts. Now I had simply woken up to reality and was determined to start over. That was all. I hadn't anticipated Victoria's reaction to the divorce. Since Ethan Vance had returned to the country a year ago, she had been completely lost in the intoxicating bliss of their rekindled childhood romance. I had assumed she'd be impatient, eager to divorce me and run straight into Ethan's arms. I never expected her to reject my proposal. Could it be concern for her reputation? I let out a humorless chuckle. My scrolling finger happened to land on Ethan Vance's latest social media post. One picture showcased an exquisitely arranged, delicious-looking meal. Another was a photo taken from behind showing a family of 3 watching fireworks light up the sky. The caption read, "May my love always be near, and may all wishes come true." I casually tapped the like button and added a comment below. First time seeing someone celebrate a holiday with another man's wife and child and then brag about it online. The post was deleted almost immediately, but Ethan Vance had ultimately underestimated the power and speed of the internet. Even though he deleted the original post, screenshots of both the post and my comment had already been frantically shared, reposted, and dissected by gossiping netizens across various platforms. Ethan, having just returned from being a K-pop trainee in Korea to launch his career domestically, already had a considerable fan base. My comment acted like a drop of water hitting sizzling oil, instantly causing a splatter. Evidence of him interfering in someone else's marriage began to surface, piece by piece. Observant netizens even dug up scandals and shady dealings that I myself hadn't been aware of. Chapter 5. As the scandal escalated online, my phone started blowing up with calls from Victoria. I didn't answer a single one. A few days later, my daughter Melody actually called me a rare occurrence. She said she missed me and wanted me to come home. She was still my biological daughter, after all. Once the divorce was final, I wasn't sure how often I'd get to see her. Might as well see her one more time, I thought. When I pushed open the door to the house, I saw Melody standing there waiting for me. A rare sense of warmth flickered within me, and I managed a small smile. "Melody, did you need Dad for something?" Instead of responding with the joy of seeing her father, she glared at me fiercely, raw resentment swirling visibly in her young eyes. "You bad man, why did you bully my Uncle Ethan? I don't want you as my dad anymore. You go apologize to Uncle Ethan right now." Hearing her words, Eleanor, her grandmother, jumped up, furious, and glared daggers at me as well. "That's right, Ethan worked so hard to finally get a foothold in the entertainment industry here, and you just had to come along and ruin his reputation. How could you be so malicious? You need to go online right now, clarify that your comment was nonsense, and issue a formal public apology. It wasn't a request, nor a suggestion. It was delivered in a tone that permitted no argument, an undeniable command." I felt the corner of my lip twitch, pulling into an ice-cold, humorless smile. I only stated the facts. He knowingly wrecked someone's home, that's a fact. He's the other man, that's also a fact. Does he have the gall to do it, but not the spine to admit it? Besides, I added, locking eyes with Eleanor, what right do you possibly have to order me around? Eleanor froze for a beat, stunned, but recovered quickly. She snatched the remote control from the coffee table and hurled it directly at me, screeching, "You're the live-in son-in-law in this family. That means you should obey me unconditionally. You do what I say. When I say it, you don't get a say in the matter." Instinctively, I stumbled back a step, dodging the flying remote. But my throat felt tight, constricted, as if strong hands were squeezing it shut. That familiar, suffocating feeling washed over me, a ghostly echo of countless past humiliations. Meanwhile, Victoria and Ethan sat calmly on the living room sofa. From my angle, I could see her eyes, those familiar, unnervingly calm, unfazed eyes. She peeled an orange, section by section, and handed it gently to Ethan, her expression soft, affectionate. "Ethan, don't worry," she murmured soothingly. Even if he refuses to clarify, I'll find a way to smooth this whole thing over. I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it had happened, but it felt like an eternity since I'd last heard her speak to me with such gentle care, such tenderness. A sharp pang of bitterness pierced my heart for a fleeting moment, then quickly subsided, replaced by a profound, settled calm. The air filled once again with the grating sound of Eleanor's endless stream of curses and abuse. I had absolutely no interest in listening any longer. I cast one last deep look at Melody, then turned on my heel and walked away. What a laughable marriage. What pathetic family ties. From this day forward, I wanted absolutely none of it. Chapter 6. Victoria, having navigated the business world for years, wasn't without her methods. She spent a fortune buying favorable press and running damage control campaigns for Ethan. In just 3 short days, she managed to turn public opinion around. Seeing the internet flooded with marketing spin, I just smirked. The Lantern Festival holiday had quietly passed, and the streets were once again bustling with their usual energy. After being cooped up in the rental apartment for days, I felt like stretching my legs and decided to head out for a walk, conveniently stopping by a lawyer's office on the way. As luck would have it, I ran into Ethan Vance at a coffee shop. He pulled his hat down lower as he approached me, his gaze cold and venomous, scrutinizing me inch by inch. Then suddenly, he chuckled. "Melody told me you moved out recently. You play this hard-to-get game pretty well, but Vicky loves me the most. She'll divorce you eventually. Even your own daughter can't wait for me to be her daddy," he added, the smug satisfaction practically dripping from his eyes, completely undisguised. I glanced up at him, too tired to bother speaking, grabbed my coffee, and walked out. Outside the cafe, I took out my phone and sent all the videos and photos I'd been saving for a long time straight to a reporter contact. Her reply was almost instantaneous. "Whoa, this is HD, definitely need to pixelate some parts, right? Ethan Vance's career is toast, wrecking a marriage, knowingly being the third party." Disgusting, the reporter, clearly someone with a strong sense of justice, launched into a fiery tirade via text. I just smiled faintly and didn't reply. Took a sip of my coffee. It tasted sweet. The videos and photos were concrete proof I had secretly gathered over the past year, irrefutable evidence of Ethan knowingly being the other man. This time, no matter how much money Victoria threw at it, she wouldn't be able to whitewash this. Perhaps fueled by some personal grudge or sense of righteous indignation, the reporter worked incredibly fast. That very evening, the explosive story broke. Out of some sense of decency, she had pixelated the more compromising images. But anyone with eyes could see the main subject was undeniably Ethan Vance. With solid proof laid bare, the internet erupted into a firestorm once again. Chapter 7. Perhaps because Ethan had taken such a beating in the press recently, Victoria's attitude towards me grew colder and sharper by the day. An almost palpable disgust radiated from her. She sent me a message, saying she wanted to talk. Coincidentally, the lawyer had just finished drafting the divorce agreement and needed her signature. So, I agreed and went to her office at the company. As I entered, I found Victoria sitting stiffly behind her desk, her face an icy mask. The air in the room was heavy, stagnant, utterly devoid of warmth. The moment she saw me, she spoke, her voice clipped and cold. "You knew perfectly well that Ethan is a public figure, yet you deliberately spread rumors to slander him, causing him to lose several endorsement deals. You need to post a clarification on social media immediately. Say your previous comment was baseless gossip. Say the photos and videos were faked out of jealousy. If you post it now, I might find it in me to forgive you. Otherwise, no," I replied calmly, pushing the divorce agreement across the desk towards her. I had barely straightened up when a hand flashed out, slapping me hard across the face. I didn't react quickly enough to dodge it, and my cheek instantly stung, burning hot. She usually had very little strength, but this slap was delivered with surprising force.
"What has gotten into you lately?"
"You're getting more outrageous every day. Won't you be satisfied until you've completely torn this family apart?" My fists clenched tightly, unclenched, then clenched again. I gritted my teeth and forced myself to endure it. When I looked up again, my eyes were devoid of all warmth, utterly cold. That's right. As long as you refuse to agree to this divorce, I'll keep making trouble. Let's see which one of us breaks first. Victoria stared into my eyes, a flicker of stunned disbelief crossing her face. Her voice trembled slightly. You're really determined to divorce me? If you drop this divorce talk, I can promise you, I'll break things off with Ethan. No need, I cut her off sharply, my voice firm. This divorce is happening. It's non-negotiable, Chapter 8. Once, for the sake of maintaining the facade of a respectable family, I had willingly compromised, swallowed my pride, endured everything. All it earned me was escalating torment. And now, the plea for reconciliation I saw flickering on her face? I found it utterly laughable. A shattered mirror cannot be made whole again. A broken relationship similarly is beyond repair. I curved my lips into a semblance of a smile, but there was no trace of warmth in my eyes. Back then, because I loved you, I left my home, gave up my career. But you didn't cherish it. After the divorce, we go our separate ways. You go yours, I go mine. We'll have nothing more to do with each other. The color drained from her face, inch by inch, as I spoke. You used to love me so much, you were willing to give up everything to marry into my Ashworth family. And now you're playing this letting go game, willing to abandon even your own daughter just to get a divorce. Sincere Clark, do you really think I, Victoria Ashworth, am that easy to fool? She took a deep breath, her eyes boring into mine. If you insist on this divorce today, fine, just don't you dare regret it. I laughed, a genuinely carefree sound this time. Don't worry, I will absolutely never regret this. After a long, tense standoff, she finally signed the divorce papers. Without any further needless words, I stood up, satisfied, and turned to leave. As I pushed the door open, I came face to face with Ethan Vance. He glanced at the divorce agreement in my hand, an undeniable gleam of smug delight flashing in his eyes. He sneered at me. So what if I quit showbiz? I'll still have the Ashworth family backing me. I'll be just fine, better than ever. While you, he continued, his voice dripping with contempt, it will just be a useless nobody from now on. But don't worry, I'll be sure to take good care of your daughter. I nodded calmly, holding up the divorce papers slightly higher. Not my daughter, I corrected him smoothly. Your daughter, she had always wanted Ethan as her father. Now her wish was finally granted. She ought to be very happy. Leaving the office, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, simple toy bracelet. Melody had given it to me when she was 4. I had treasured it ever since, never taking it off. Now, there was no reason to keep it anymore. I tossed it casually into the nearest trash can. The last lingering trace of warmth in my heart vanished along with the arc of its descent. Chapter 9. With the signed divorce papers in hand, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Composing myself, I contacted my long-term client to discuss the partnership and investment in her private studio. I'd been working with this client for 4 or 5 years, yet we had never met in person. I didn't even know her real name. Following the company address she sent, I arrived and the receptionist led me directly to her office. Mr. Sincere Clark, is that right? Ms. Quinn is waiting for you. Miss Quinn? How did she know my name was Sincere Clark? I was sure I'd never revealed my real name. Full of questions, I cautiously knocked on the director's door. As I looked up, my gaze met a pair of eyes that were so familiar it was almost startling. Isabel Quinn? I instinctively swallowed hard. The client I'd been in contact with for years turned out to be my college ex-girlfriend. My immediate impulse was to turn and flee, but then I heard her voice, tinged with amusement, running away. Am I really that scary? Under Isabel Quinn's gentle persuasion read, friendly threats and teasing, I ultimately signed the contract to become a partner in her studio. She seemed genuinely delighted. The moment I signed, she posted an announcement on the company's official channels and invited me out for dinner that evening to discuss things further. Having accomplished something significant, I felt lighter, almost walking on air. As I left her office, however, I bumped into Ethan Vance in the adjacent waiting room. He was clearly there for a meeting. He looked just as surprised to see me. "Sincere Clark, what are you doing here?" After leaving the entertainment industry, Ethan had proactively joined Ashworth Corp, claiming he wanted to help Victoria manage the company, make it bigger and stronger. He was obviously here at Isabel's company trying to secure a business partnership. I couldn't be bothered to explain. I just rolled my eyes at him. "Why don't you mind your own business? Are you here to discuss a partnership?" Chapter 10. I glanced at the thick stack of documents in his hand and smiled faintly. "You might as well save your energy. The CEO is a friend of mine. Your proposal hasn't got a chance." The smile in my eyes held no warmth. It was blatant mockery and derision. My casual, dismissive attitude felt like a stinging slap across Ethan's face, infuriating him. I chuckled softly and walked right past him. Isabel had suggested getting hot pot tonight. I wasn't about to let someone like him ruin my mood. That evening, not long after the hot pot arrived at our table, Victoria called. "Sincere Clark, I heard you invested in some new little studio. You haven't worked a real job in almost 6 years. You should probably avoid embarrassing yourself out there. I've saved a position for you at the company. You can start tomorrow." I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling a headache starting. Without even thinking, I refused flatly. "Not interested. Maybe save that great opportunity for your lover boy. He seems to like it there." Victoria hadn't changed, still habitually putting me down just to feel superior. Even though I had once given everything to save her family's failing company, she still saw me as useless, a good-for-nothing. She had even forced me into being a stay-at-home dad, probably afraid I'd steal her spotlight. "Sincere Clark, don't be ungrateful." The familiar insults started flowing from the other end. I didn't want to hear any more and hung up. "Your ex-wife?" Seeing my mood sour, Isabel Quinn's brow furrowed. I had never mentioned anything about Victoria to her before, but she was perceptive and had likely sensed something. Now she watched me intently, her gaze unwavering, clearly determined to get the story. Since she asked, there was no point in hiding it anymore. I told her everything, plain and simple. Isabel listened, her lips pressed into a thin line, her face taut. Her eyes grew cold as if ice was forming within them. "And here I thought you'd found some epic true love, leaving home and marrying into her family. Turns out it was this?" I was speechless, rubbing my nose awkwardly. "Yeah," I admitted quietly, "made a bad call." Chapter 11. Perhaps running into me during his partnership attempt had rattled Ethan Vance more than I realized. A few days later, word got around that he had successfully secured a massive deal. The projected net profit upon completion was supposedly close to 9 figures. I was puzzled, silently lamenting fate's apparent lack of judgment. Isabel just smiled, raising an eyebrow at me. She leaned in and explained softly, "That project isn't straightforward." Ethan was audacious enough to trick Victoria into signing that contract just so he could skim kickbacks off the top. "Ashworth Corp is probably done for." I froze. "You set them up?" She shot me a look. I didn't have to lift a finger. "Your brainless ex-wife was stupid enough to invite the thief into her own house." Understanding dawned, and I let out a wry chuckle. Later, as I was heading to the underground parking garage after work, Victoria suddenly appeared, blocking my path. She looked at me with a complicated expression, her tone strangely ambivalent. "Sincere Clark, back then you willingly gave up your company shares just to divorce me. Now that Ethan has landed the Bamboo Sea Resort project, the company will be going public soon. It's too late for regrets now, even if you have them." As she said this, an almost irrepressible smugness shone in her eyes. It wasn't hard to figure out. She had gone out of her way to find me just to flaunt this victory, hoping to make me regret my decision. Seeing her standing there, puffed up like a victorious rooster, I honestly felt like laughing. But having been married once, a sliver of lingering something compelled me to offer a well-intentioned warning. If that project was really as good as you claim, do you think it would have just fallen into Ethan's lap? You should really open your eyes and take a much closer look before committing. Victoria glared at me, exasperated. What could possibly be wrong with it? You're just jealous, that's all. Sincere Clark, you just wait. You'll regret this. Chapter 12. My partnership with Isabel Quinn in the studio progressed steadily. Leveraging the reputation I'd built anonymously over the years, we attracted a good number of clients. While securing a stable income, I also began focusing on developing my own original software program. This had always been my dream, the key to achieving my life goals. Now was the time to make it a reality. After the divorce, Victoria initially made an effort to maintain appearances, avoiding public displays of affection with Ethan. She even occasionally called me late at night using different numbers. I never answered. Later, however, actively encouraged by Eleanor, the two went public with their relationship. They were sometimes seen out shopping or dining together, occasionally with Melody in tow. One day, Isabel suggested we catch a movie to relax. During a quick trip to the restroom, I spotted Melody sitting alone in the waiting area. She had an ice cream cone in each hand, her mouth smeared with it. "What are you doing here? Didn't Mommy say you weren't allowed to come find me anymore?" Seeing me, Melody's face instantly became wary. There was no hint of joy at seeing her father, only clear displeasure. "Uncle Ethan bought these for me," she declared defensively. "He said I can eat as much as I want. You're not my daddy anymore," she added sharply. "You have no right to tell me what to do." As if afraid I might try to take them away, she even turned her back slightly, shielding the ice cream. I gave a faint, indifferent smile. "I'm not going to tell you what to do. Eat however much you want. You can't reason with someone determined to self-destruct." When her stomach inevitably started hurting, she would be the one suffering, not me. In the past, my constant concern and care for her had somehow become reasons for her to dislike me. Now I wouldn't interfere anymore. Halfway through the movie, my phone started vibrating insistently. It was an unknown number. Assuming it might be a client with an urgent issue, I answered. "Sincere Clark, you need to get to the hospital right now." It was Eleanor's frantic voice. Melody's stomach hurt so badly she's about to go into shock. Hurry, Chapter 13. Shock? A brief flicker of panic shot through me. I said I understood, apologized to Isabel, and immediately headed for the hospital. She was still my biological daughter. I should at least go see her. The moment I arrived at the hospital, Eleanor charged at me like a raging bull. Caught off guard, I couldn't dodge completely. She shoved me hard, and my hand smashed against the sharp corner of a counter. Beads of blood instantly welled up from the cut, dripping onto the floor, leaving me feeling helpless and messy. Ethan Vance stood just behind her, a smirk playing on his lips, making no effort to hide his malicious glee. His wonderful mother-in-law-to-be was teaching me a lesson for him. Naturally, he wouldn't miss the show. "Ethan said it just now at the cinema. Melody only spoke a few words to you, and then her stomach started hurting," Eleanor shrieked. "Tell me, did you hold a grudge and give our Melody something? You black-hearted monster, that's your own daughter." I almost laughed out loud. My former mother-in-law was truly one of a kind. The outrageous things she dared to say. While I already knew Victoria's mother wasn't exactly normal, I never expected her to spew such venom. "Excuse me, but could you please stop spewing nonsense?" I retorted sharply. "Melody has a naturally sensitive stomach. I never let her eat cold or raw things before. She just had 2 ice creams at once, of course. Her stomach couldn't handle it. You call yourself her grandmother, yet you casually let someone else take her out and feed her junk, and now you have the nerve to blame me?" Eleanor didn't believe me, raising her hand as if to strike me again. I frowned, pulling away from her grasp, my voice turning ice cold. "I'm divorced from your daughter. Please stop bothering me with these matters in the future." Eleanor froze for a moment, her face flushing crimson with rage. "You useless good-for-nothing, you heartless brat. How dare you speak to me like that?" Chapter 14. The endless torrent of verbal abuse began anew. To avoid hearing anything even more vile, I pulled out my phone. "Unless you continue with this foul-mouthed tirade, I won't hesitate to call the police and have you locked up for a few days." The old me, no matter how unwilling, would have likely caved and compromised. But now, even being screamed at, cursed point blank, I felt absolutely nothing. Each step I took away from her felt firm, resolute. Finally, I no longer had to endure anything. A doctor nearby, who had apparently been about to intervene, saw the exchange and just shook his head repeatedly. "The child's digestive system is severely irritated. We just induced vomiting. And she had Japanese sashimi for lunch? That's absolutely forbidden. How can a child eat so recklessly? Sanat, I don't know how these people raise their kids," he muttered disapprovingly. His words were blunt, offering no quarter. Both Eleanor's and Ethan's faces darkened considerably. Eleanor in particular looked so furious she seemed about to explode. She shot a complaining glare at Ethan but said nothing more. Learning that Melody was out of danger, I left without another word. Spending even one more second there felt nauseating. After this incident, Eleanor quieted down somewhat, but since Ethan was still her favored son-in-law candidate, she didn't blame him too harshly. The Bamboo Sea Resort project at Ashworth Corp had signed on to begin its initial stages of work. Victoria would even occasionally send anonymous messages to brag about its progress. Naturally, I paid her words no mind. I didn't delete the messages, just set them to Do Not Disturb. Sometimes, when I remembered, I'd glance at them like reading a joke. But soon, her laughter dried up. As the project moved forward, various problems began cropping up one after another. The massive hidden flaws within the deal slowly started coming to light. With a little nudge from Isabel Quinn, fanning the flames, Ashworth Corp quickly found itself dragged into an abyss by that very contract. Within about a week, the company officially declared bankruptcy. Chapter 15. One evening, I received a call from Melody. "Daddy, Mommy's company went bankrupt. She and Grandma cry at home every day." "Oh," I replied, saying nothing more. Honestly, this outcome didn't surprise me at all. But as far as I was concerned, it had nothing to do with me anymore. Hearing my silence, Melody's voice started to choke up. "Daddy, Melody misses you so much. Can you come back, please? Melody knows she was wrong. Can you forgive Melody? Forgive me and Mommy?" I didn't answer. I just hung up the phone and blocked the number. After a moment's thought, I blocked all numbers related to the Ashworth family as well. Victoria soon discovered that Ethan had secretly signed the contract with its exorbitant penalty clauses purely to pocket kickbacks, which directly led to the company's bankruptcy. She confronted Ethan in a frenzy. They argued violently, and Ethan ended up physically attacking her. I heard she suffered several broken ribs and was bedridden for over half a year. Once Victoria recovered, she started looking for work again but faced constant rejection. She searched for over a month, but not a single company would hire her. Even small businesses turned her down for basic clerical positions. Logically, even with Victoria's complicated background, falling this far seemed excessive. Someone had to be pulling strings behind the scenes. I had a strong suspicion Isabel might be involved, but I didn't ask. I simply accepted this silent gesture of goodwill. A month later, the software program I had designed was exclusively launched through our studio. Within 3 days, it shot up to second place on the charts. Our studio's reputation soared overnight, and we earned a substantial profit.
To celebrate our success, Isabel threw a company banquet.
Just as the party was getting lively with drinks flowing and toasts being made, Victoria showed up. Chapter 16. In front of everyone, she fell to her knees, crying and begging for my forgiveness. "Honey, I know I was wrong. I was blinded. I made terrible mistakes. It's all my fault, please. Can you forgive me? I promise I'll be good to you from now on. Our family of 3, we can have a good life together, okay?" The surrounding chatter instantly died down, silence falling over the room. Truthfully, she had been calling me incessantly over the past few days, using various different numbers. I hadn't answered a single call. But seeing her kneeling there now, sobbing and pleading, a strange pang of discomfort stirred within me. That feeling of sadness was like murky sediment in a bottle, slowly swirling and settling. It wasn't because I still cared about her. It was simply a deep sense of sorrow for my lost 6 years of marriage. The girl I had once loved so deeply had vanished somewhere along the way, carried off by the relentless current of time. I found I could hardly remember what she used to look like anymore. Melody was crying last night, saying she missed her daddy. Victoria choked out between sobs. "Could you please go see her? Just once." Enough, I cut her off sharply, calmly pulling her hand away from where it gripped my trouser leg. "I told you before, I am never seeing her again." My cold tone severed Victoria's last thread of hope. She crumpled powerlessly to the floor. Long after the hall had emptied, she remained there, kneeling blankly. Who knows if she was repenting the past or dreading the future. Eleanor, suddenly stripped of financial support and abandoned by her perfect prospective son-in-law, also lost it. She came crying and wailing to the entrance of my studio, begging for my forgiveness. "My dear son-in-law, please forgive Vicky. Your daughter Melody is waiting for you at home. It was Mom's fault before I was fooled by that. Scoundrel, blinded, I caused you and my daughter to divorce. Please forgive me. Let our family of 3 start over, live happily together again." Chapter 17. My brow furrowed tightly in irritation. I waved a dismissive hand. 2 security guards immediately stepped forward and dragged the howling Eleanor away. The office gradually quieted down, and the curious onlookers dispersed. The next time I saw Victoria, winter had set in again. Perhaps the shock of the sudden bankruptcy had taken its toll. She seemed erratic, almost unhinged. Despite the freezing 2 or 3 degree weather, she was wearing a thin strap dress, one I had given her years ago, shivering violently in the cold wind. The moment I appeared, she lunged at me. "Sincere, you can't leave me. You used to love me so much. If you abandon me, how will Melody and I survive?" Frowning, I pried her hands off me and brushed the dust from my overcoat where she had clung to it. I looked down at the woman who had stumbled and fallen to the ground, feeling absolutely nothing. "Please, I'm begging you, forgive me, okay? Give me one more chance. Let our family of 3 live a good life together, please." My face remained impassive as I walked past her without stopping. Only after getting into my car did I roll down the window and utter 2 final words, "No chance." Then I drove away, leaving her behind. Over the next half year or so, Victoria never appeared again. Much later, I heard from a friend that after the Ashworth bankruptcy, Ethan Vance had abandoned Victoria and Melody and fled to another region. However, he couldn't handle the hardship of actual work and couldn't find a suitable job. Desperate, he ended up working as a male escort in a nightclub. Using his looks, he managed to latch onto a married woman with some money, but her husband eventually caught them in a private room at the club. He was stripped naked and beaten severely. Trying to escape the beating, Ethan fell from a balcony over 10 meters high and died instantly on impact. Chapter 18. Another Lantern Festival arrived. I spent the afternoon busy in the kitchen with my parents, the atmosphere warm and lively. Just as we finished putting the dishes on the table, there was a knock at the door. Victoria stood outside, holding Melody's hand. Traces of snow clung to her hair and dampened her clothes, evidence of their journey through the winter weather. "What are you doing here?" I was momentarily stunned but didn't invite them in. Victoria's eyes were red-rimmed. When she spoke, her voice was thick with regretful tears. Melody said she missed her daddy. She wanted to eat food made by her daddy. In the next second, the small figure darted forward and hugged my legs tightly. "Bon Daddy, please don't leave Melody. Melody misses you so much. I'll never make Daddy angry again, Daddy. Please forgive Mommy and Melody, okay?" The words sounded rehearsed, clearly coached. I found it almost comical. Reaching down, I gently pushed her away. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice even. "I stopped being your daddy a long time ago, and I don't have time to entertain guests right now." The door slowly closed, and in the narrowing gap, I caught a glimpse of the reddened eyes of both Victoria and her daughter. I knew in that instant they must have been remembering every meal I had cooked over the past 6 years. All those dishes they had disdained, the ones that ended up shattered and wasted on the floor. But those broken things, those things that were never cherished, those are often the hardest things to ever get back. Love is like that, and so am I.